National Report. President Trump has signed an executive order to restore American seafood competitiveness and save fisheries from years of overregulation.
The order is aimed at strengthening the U.S. fishing industry by reducing regulatory burdens, combating unfair foreign trade practices, and enhancing domestic seafood production and exports. I want to talk about that one with Jerry Leeman, the founder and CEO of the New England Fishermen's Stewardship Association and a fifth-generation fisherman. How about that? Dustin Delano is here, the COO of the New England Fishermen's Stewardship Association and a fourth-generation fisherman. Excellent to have both of you here, and thank you for coming on. Jerry, can I just start with you? Talk to us about the changes that really the fishing industry has seen over the years.
Yeah, a lot of the regulations are restricting us a lot of access to a lot of areas where it's making it harder for any individual making a living on the water to harvest a resource for the American public. This it's holding back markets. It's restraining, local commerces in your local fishing villages. It's pushing people further away from our natural traditions that have been feeding America wild, our healthy product.
Wow. And it's interesting to hear. I mean, it's clearly in your family for quite some time. I'm sure you've seen the changes over the years. And Dustin, you as well, right? What's going on with the president's executive order? And do you think it will make a difference in sort of cutting the red tape that you need done away with?
Yeah, I think, there's some great opportunity here. This executive order does many things. It calls for fisheries deregulatory actions with input from the councils, from the fishing industry and other experts to submit ideas for innovation and better management. And we urge NOAA to consider bringing fishermen to the table in some type of advisory capacity. But it also expands cooperative research, and that's incredibly important. Better data practices. There are some institutions within NOAA that are successful now, the Marine Development and Ecology branch, the cooperative research branches, but expanding those and bringing fisheries knowledge into assessments is crucial. But it also targets, different approaches to trade and tariffs, but it also initiates America First seafood strategy for marketing, for exports. In 2022, the U.S. had a $24 billion seafood. That's insane. We're importing 80% of the seafood we consume from countries with little to no regulations or sustainable fishing practices. And another thing it does is it requires a review of monuments and makes recommendations to reopen them for fishing access.
I want to play this for you. The National Report recently, our show, had the mayor of Bayou La Batre, Alabama, who's a third-generation shrimp net maker on the Gulf Coast. And he spoke about the tariffs, saying tariffs on foreign competitors are welcome change, hoping they bring the struggling shrimping industry specifically some much-needed relief. Here's that moment.
Our industry is regulated to death, from the shrimp boats to the processors to the people that sell it. They're just regulated to death. And these people that overseas, they're not under the same scrutiny as we are. They're not watched like we are. Now, I wrote President Trump a letter asking him to put tariffs on foreign seafood, not just the shrimp, but all of it. It's several industries that are being affected by this: the shrimp, the crab industry, the fishing industry. And I mean, that's kind of the backbone of our city, is the commercial fishing industry.
And Jerry, can you add to that? You touched on regulations as well and how that impacts and affects the fishing industry.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these regulations are restricting access to our wild resources, which feeding the American public. Specifically up here in the Northeast, we've got lobster regulation and groundfish regulations that's restricting us access to certain management areas, which keeps, a staple like haddock off the American dinner table. But yet we import these same products from foreign nations who do not abide by the same rules and regulations for which we abide here in the United States.
Great point. By the way, I'd rather have food that's caught by American fishermen, right? They know what's happening, the process of which these fish are being caught and eventually brought to your dinner table, right, than someone way overseas who knows what's lost in the process there. However, there's some backlash to the move by the president. Just want to share some of these thoughts. One conservation group is saying, quote, "These executive orders don't loosen red tape. they unravel the very safety net that protects our oceans, our economy, and our seafood dinners. For decades, the U.S. science-based approach to fisheries management has rebuilt declining stocks, kept American fishers on the water, and protected important places and wildlife. So, Dustin, if I could just get your thoughts to that.
Look, commercial fishermen are not anti-regulation completely. We're not anti-environment. We want our fisheries to thrive, not sustainable fisheries for the next generation. That's basically what all of us care the most about, is passing this on to the next generation, just like people like Jerry and I have inherited. And I just need to say that, specifically in the last administration, NOAA seemed to have quite a focus on a climate agenda, on the green agenda. Well, it's time to come back and focus on fisheries. Let's let fisheries thrive in this environment, and we're hoping that this administration will be that change that we need.
It's very cool to talk about fourth and fifth generation fishermen today on the broadcast. We do appreciate that, gentlemen. Jerry Leeman and Dustin Delano, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right.